Welcome to The Good Word. My name is Vincent Goodwill, senior NBA writer for Yahoo Sports. We are part of the Ball Don't Lie network. Get us wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, I am joined by a Hall of Famer, a Kurt Gowdy Award winner in 2016. He currently works for The Athletic in D.C. He worked for ESPN. He worked for Turner Sports, NBA.com, The Washington Post, and probably your local liquor store, too, because David Aldridge worked everywhere. D.A., how you doing, man?
I'm Jamaican, bro. So, got to have that hey, man, So it's all good, man. Thank you for having me, Vince.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. He also worked for the Philadelphia Inquirer. I forgot that.
I did. I was bored for 4 years. Yeah, I was bored. I didn't have nothing to do. I didn't have enough jobs, so y'all got another job for a brother?
I wish I could, because I want another one. But DA, we got a lot to get to because we are coming off of the in-season tournament, the success, or some people would say a mirage of success. But our buddy Ethan Strauss, or my buddy Ethan Strauss, I'm not sure if you are, but I love Ethan. Ethan doesn't believe that the in-season success or in-season tournament was a success. I tend to think that these things take a little more time than just a random rating, especially if something is new. But DA, before we get to that, LeBron and the Lakers, they take this thing as seriously or more seriously than any other team. They go perfect. They really are not even threatened for the most part, with the exception of a couple of games against the Phoenix Suns, who we'll get to later. But are you of the belief, because this is something new and we don't have any way to really evaluate this, that this is any signal for anything to come? Or is this game 23 and it's December?
I'll say this, Vince. I have a nuanced feeling about it. I don't think it's completely contrived. I don't know if that's Ethan's position or not. I haven't read what he said, but I don't think it's completely contrived. I think that there certainly was more interest in games in November and December than there's been in quite some time. I think you'd have to really be kind of willfully ignorant to argue that wasn't the case, right? Now, you can argue whether that was justified or not, but you can't argue that there wasn't more interest. There was a lot of interest in games. I do think in the main, guys took it seriously. It wasn't like guys blew it off and say, I'm not playing because it's not worth nothing. This game doesn't mean anything. I'm tired. We got a game in 2 nights. So from that standpoint, it was not, I think the players took it seriously, which is important, especially for the first year. My argument would be, my thoughts would be, like I said, it's nuanced. And I know we don't do nuance in this world anymore.
No, not anymore. We do hot takes.
You have to have a hot take immediately. And it's the worst thing ever, or it's the greatest thing ever. And I don't think it's either of those things. Because I think when you say, well, this is the greatest, why didn't they do this before? And this just shows you that players don't care. Well, that's bullshit. Players care. They always care. And to say that players didn't play hard in November before this tournament is bullshit. Okay? Because they do play hard. They don't always play well, right? Sometimes they miss, but they play hard for the most part. There are nights where they don't have it.
Right.
That is human nature. I don't write the best column every day. You know what I mean? Like just some days are better than others in terms of your performance, but that doesn't mean I don't give an effort or I don't try or I'm mailing it in. So I think the guys cared, but I think they generally always care. They always try to play hard. They always try to play with some purpose when they're out on the court. If for no other reason, just their own pride. They just don't want to be embarrassed. I think it was good in that sense. I certainly think fans were more engaged, and that's important.
Absolutely.
And if they are the constituency that the league care most about, then you have to say it's a real success because fans did get into this. They got into it. I was in Indy last week for the quarterfinals when they played Boston. They were into that game. It was a big, important game for that franchise for a lot of different reasons. But so the fans certainly were engaged in it. My issue with the league is twofold. I don't think, number one, they're honest about about why they're doing this. They're kind of tying it to, we want players to take the regular season more seriously. Well, that's sort of true. What you really want is to create something that you can sell for $1 billion. So just say that. Just say, we're trying to create a product, a piece of product. We're trying to parcel out our regular season and make it into something that's so valuable that we can get it for $1 billion from Amazon. Just say it. Just be honest about it and stop tying it to, well, the players. We want the players to really lean into the importance of all 82 regular season games. That's tangentially true. That's like an added benefit to this. What you're really trying to do is create a product you can sell for $1 billion. And if you would just say that up front, I would have way less problem with this in-season tournament.
David, I think you're right. I think it's twofold. Like, they don't have more inventory to sell, right?
Right.
All you have is 82 games, an All-Star weekend, the playoffs, so on and so forth. So what you're trying to do is make certain games within the 82 more valuable. You probably are tired of players not playing during regular season games, or teams rather holding players out during regular season games. I think the load management thing we talked about here ad nauseum, that it's not always the players, it's the agents, it's the front offices, it's the teams, it's the franchises that have played a part in that, and the players are the ones taking a brunt in that. But David, you were in Indiana. I'm just curious, when was the last time you were in Indiana for a Pacers game?
That's fair. Somebody asked me that, and it was probably when Oladipo was there. In fact, it was when Oladipo was there, because I wrote about Oladipo making the All-Star team. So when he and Sabonis both made the All-Star team, and that was a mea culpa column that I wrote, when would that have been? I don't know when that would have been. 2019?
Yeah.
Something like that. Basically, because I had dissed the trade. When they traded Paul George, I basically said, that's all they got, and so I had to eat the column and eat my words and say, okay, Oladipo and Sabonis both made the All-Star team. You look like an idiot, So that was the last time. Now, in fairness, Vinny, you got to give me a reason to go anywhere. I'm old now. I don't like leaving my house. So you got to give me, and the Pacers didn't give me a reason beforehand.
And that was going to be my point, DA. It's a success in that we're talking about the Indiana Pacers in ways that we hadn't since 2014 when Paul George was there. I think the Lakers being the standard bearer of a franchise, Lakers, Golden State, some of the other Boston's Knicks, when they decide to get their together, like, those are the teams that you want to see. It also helps when you bring in new stories like Tyrese Halliburton, like the Indiana Pacers, basketball hotbed that has not been relevant for a long time. And like you said, that arena was popping all over, and you could see it on TV. I can imagine what it was like in person in early December.
It was fun. It was fun to see. I like Indiana. I like that franchise. I think they've done it the right way for the most part, for the most of their existence in the NBA.
Right.
They've tried to put an entertaining product on the floor. They're not reactionary, knee-jerk. They built around their stars like Reggie Miller and Paul George, like you mentioned, and they went as far as they could with them. Right? They didn't win a title, but they made the finals. They've done some decent work there. So I think they will do the same with Halliburton. And it was great to see, give him a stage to show everybody how good he is, how great he is, and so that was great. And I was happy for that, because I'm a firm believer in this, Vinny. I really do believe this. The NBA cannot survive if it's mid-market and, smaller market teams aren't successful. You can't just be about the Lakers and the Heat and the Celtics every year. Like, I'm not even talking about winning championships, but Indiana's got to have a good product to put on the floor. Right. Milwaukee's got to have a good product to put on the floor. Utah has to have a good product to put on the floor. And that my template is always, if you go back, look, like, did the Utah Jazz win a championship with Karl Malone and John Stockton? No, but they were damn good for a decade. And that's all you can ask for. Like, they were really good for a decade. And Milwaukee was really good during the 80s. They didn't win no titles. Right. But they had Marcus Johnson and Paul Pressey. They had good teams. They won 50 games every year. Those are good teams, And Milwaukee now with Giannis obviously is a great team. And so But those markets have to have success too. Does not mean championships necessarily.
Right.
But they have to have good product because those people pay for tickets too.
Yes.
You know, like they have families. Their kids want to go to games, and you can't come to a game and have 5,000 people in the arena in half of the league. That's not going to work. You know,
No.
so it was important to me that both Indiana and New Orleans did well in this tournament.
Yeah, and here's the point that I want to make, because we were talking about, well, I live in Detroit, as people know. DA lives in DC. Not quite the models of organizational competence, so shall we say?
I'll tell you what I was doing. I'll tell you exactly what I was doing when we started this just before I got on here.
Okay.
I was writing down the list of teams that have made the conference finals since 1979.
A team that's not on that list?
The last year that the Wizards made the conference finals. It's been 44 years since they've been in a conference final. I was 14 last time they were in a conference final. I was in junior high school. This is ridiculous. So, yes. So we catching it now, Vinny. You and I are catching it.
Yeah, my saying about the Washington Bullets / Wizards, they couldn't win 50 games with John Wall. They hadn't won 50 games since Michael Jackson put out Off the Wall. And they routinely stink the Detroit Pistons,
His
the team
best
of
album,
my
by the
youth.
way.
Absolutely.
His best
not
album,
in the
by the way.
Most complete album. Absolutely. We can.
Fantastic.
It's not even that close.
It's
I
not
love
close.
Thriller, but it's not even that close.
It's like LeBron and Kobe. It's not really close when you think about it. Or LeBron and Michael. It's not really close.
David Aldridge, see, DA. It's not close. That's the bad part
really
about
close.
it.
No, I said it's not really close.
It's not really close.
That's all. That's me. That's me, though. I could be wrong. But I'm not.
You're not. You're not wrong. but DA, going back to Halliburton, and we're going to close this point out because we're talking about bad franchises. Is two things for me. That's why I say you don't strip it down to the studs. You don't rid yourself of every available asset and just say we're going to build through the draft, because you strip yourself. You strip yourself of a great team building asset by not having talent in your building. And once you get losing in your building, it's hard to get it out. It's like asbestos. You know what I mean? It's like New York rats. Like once they're there, they ain't going nowhere. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And secondly, the draft evaluation of bigger, faster, stronger, got to have the perfect body, the perfect shot. Tyrese Halliburton is none of those things. And he is looking every bit like new age Steve Nash, that single-handedly turning around a franchise, playing a different style of ball, all that. I think the Wizards that year took Denny Avdija, and the Pistons that year took Killian Hayes, who is notably one of the worst starters in the NBA up until maybe like a week or so ago. But just DA, draft evaluation. Yeah. These guys routinely go to places, or teams that routinely miss on them wind up having egg on their face because it's not bigger, faster, stronger.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it's not, look, I get it. Like draft, look, I can go down the list of guys that I totally whiffed on, right? Like I totally whiffed on. I thought Johnny Flynn was going to be a really good player in the NBA. I was totally wrong. Totally wrong. You know, like, so, I get it. It's not, you're right. It's not an exact science, but that's their job, right? You have to be evaluated on that. That's a big part of your job. And it doesn't mean that Denny Avdija is not a solid player. He's a solid player. He's a good player, but he ain't Halliburton. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's why that's why the guys that picked him aren't there anymore with the Wizards. You know, like you can't keep missing, especially high in the draft. Like you got to nail some of these top 10 picks. You can't keep getting guys that aren't great. Like you have to at some point hit on great. And I think that's Detroit's problem. And that's what they have to, one of these guys has got to hit soon. Like you got to show me.
Like yesterday.
Yeah. And it's the same in Washington. Like, you know, the clock's running. You can't keep just saying, well, we'll get it right next year. You know, fans aren't trying to hear that, especially fans that haven't won nothing for a while.
Dude, May 25th, 2008, That was the last day the Pistons won a playoff game. Pistons, Celtics, Eastern Conference Finals, Game 4. Antonio McDyess had a game that game. Tied the series at 2. Pistons were in the 6th straight conference finals. They won the title on 04. People were used to being in Detroit in May and June. And they ain't thought of Detroit in almost 15 years. And it's largely due. You get ownership, front office changes, coaching changes. Monty Williams is there. Nobody has done a great job in Detroit this season. When you're 2-18 or whatever the hell, 2-21, whatever the hell the record is, nobody can look up and say, you know what, I've carried my weight.
Right. No, everybody's accountable. You have to be accountable, and it's hard. It's hard, and those teams didn't, make a dent. I know the Wizards didn't win a single game in the conference, in their whatever bracket they were in. I don't know if Detroit won a game or not. But
their losing streak started before the in-season tournament began. DA. Damn. They went over November.
The Wizards' only win is over them. So that tells you where the Wizards have been. Wizards like, damn, oh, hell, we got Detroit tonight. We're going to get right tonight. That's sad.
It is. That's look, Cade Cunningham, healthy, but has not been the impactful player. He's gotten better. He's made modest gains, but hasn't been impactful. Jaden Ivey's been buried on the bench. Jalen Duren is now hurt. Hey, I'll tell you a guy who I missed on in the draft years ago, Stanley Johnson. I thought he had all the tools, right?
Sure. You could make, you know who they didn't take that year? Right?
You know who they didn't take that year? Devin Booker. You know who they missed out on a couple years later? Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah. Now, look, that doesn't make the people that took them geniuses, but they got that right. Like, that counts. Like, how else do you keep score? Like, that's how you keep score. Like, did you get it right when you had to get it right? And they did, and Detroit and Washington didn't. And that explains a lot about where those franchises are right now.
Yeah, it's almost like, show me an unsuccessful team, show me your draft board. Show me what you've done in the draft the last 10 years, and I will look at you and tell you why you are where you are. Speaking of why you are where you are, DA, our buddy Ja Morant's 25-game suspension is coming to a close. I asked Adam Silver about it at the in-season tournament presser, and he said, I'm supposed to meet with Ja this week. Hopefully Ja doesn't bring a gun to the meeting. You know what I mean? Hopefully Ja isn't, guzzling tequila before the meeting. God. Hopefully Ja doesn't punch out a 16-year-old before the meeting.
Yeah.
DA, is Ja still important to the NBA's present and future, or have they, in a way, moved on from Ja, and to a lesser degree or even greater degree, a guy like Zion Williamson?
Oh, no. I think the league, he's still very important. I mean, Ja was like one of the top 3 guys in the league in terms of, kind of like fan response, interaction, lifting a franchise, all the things that we kind of measure players by, right? Like, he was top guy. And I don't think you can forget that. I think it's unfair to him to say he's just another guy now. What is he, 23?
Yeah.
Like, come on. I mean, he's got plenty of time to resurrect his career, but he has to resurrect his career. and he can't afford another misstep, another mistake, another what the hell were you thinking incident. Like, he's on double secret probation, as he used to say back in the day. He can't mess up no more. If he does, he's kicked out of the league for good, and so you just can't keep making mistakes like that. And these are all self-inflicted. Vinny, that's what drives me nuts about him. Ain't nobody do nothing to Ja. Ja did this to himself. Like what hardship has Ja Morant had growing up? Like, seriously now. Like, come on. What real hardship did he have growing up? I'm not saying he grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth, but they weren't, like you said, fighting rats off in their house every night. Like, he grew up like, I think you grew up like I grew up, pretty middle class. Like, you know what I'm saying? So you can't, that's not a That's not an argument that he can make, So this is all about trying to somehow fulfill some sort of role that he sees for himself that nobody asked him to fill.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like there's zero people that said, man, I want Ja Morant to be hard. I want Ja Morant to be this, that, and the third. Like nobody said that. Who said that? Said nobody? Like you just said, I have to be this. Like, so no, you don't, Ja. Just be you. Just be a great basketball player who comes from a really solid family. Like, why would you not want to lean into that? You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand that. So we'll see. We'll see if he's learned.
If there's one place you don't want to play tough, it's probably Memphis.
Memphis.
They don't play with guns. They do guns.
They shoot guns. They shoot guns. They fire them. They fire them.
They use them.
Yeah.
You don't need to get yourself involved around the wrong people. And
right.
And I do think there's a level of, I won't say grace is the word. There is a level of me understanding that being handed $200 million or whatever it is to you and your crew, you and your family, that comes with a lot, right? And whatever issues that you have, they become exacerbated when you become a 9-figure athlete with a Nike deal and everything else.
No doubt.
Totally get that. The one thing I don't get, DA, don't play in Commissioner Silver's face, right? If you played in David Stern's face, you would have been out of the league. And secondly, why do you have to broadcast that you're carrying this little Harlem Nights gun all around? We wouldn't know any of this, DA, if Ja didn't tell us.
Right.
Like if he meets with Adam and Adam says, look, I don't care if you play with guns. Hire a bodyguard. Can you just not tell us?
Right. Exactly. Just don't put it on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. Come on. Seriously? Or on your IG. Come on.
IG Live. Yeah. At 5 in the morning, that shotgun Willies.
I always ask when things like this happen, what's your constituency? Like, who is this video for that you're showing me? You know what I'm saying? Like who really do you think is going to go hit the like button on that? Oh, there, Ja's strapped. Oh, that's awesome. Like, who is that? Who are you trying to please or impress with your little bullshit gangster video? Who are you trying to?
Look, I'll tell you like this. Where I come from, people who play gangster way too often attract the attention of real gangsters.
Of actual gangsters, yes.
You don't want those problems, Ja.
No.
Keep the gangsters on the other side of town. You don't want that. You don't need that.
It's different. Like, I always use AI as an example. Alan grew up where Alan grew up. Mm-hmm. I understand why Alan's the way Alan is.
Mm-hmm.
When you got raw sewage rolling through your house, okay? I get that. I know who kept Alan's lights on, all right? And so I understand where Alan's coming from. That's why I never got on Alan too much over his course of his career, because I understood where Alan came from. Like, he came up with some real issues,
trauma
growing up, real trauma. And I'm not saying Ja had no trauma, but Ja didn't have trauma like Allen Iverson had trauma. Please stop it. And so that to me is like, that's why I'm like, Ja, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? I know where you went to high school. What are you doing? Like, who are you? Like, just be you. Like, I know this isn't you. That's not you.
Yeah, but the thing is, DA, I don't think Ja know who Ja is. Like you said, be you, and I completely agree with you.
Yeah,
I don't know if he has a sense, and we're clearly doing this from 30,000 feet. I don't get the sense that he knows who he is.
Yeah, and I want to apologize to Ja and his family for trying to psychoanalyze him from 30,000 feet away, because that's not my role, that's not my job, and I'm not any good at it. So, but I'm just telling you what I see, and I think the reaction of people around the league and that do know Ja a little bit has been pretty similar. Like, you don't have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You are a great basketball player. You're great. Like, just do that.
Yep. Just and this is
You know?
one way I will give LeBron James a lot of credit, right?
Yes.
21 years in the league. I'm not going to go into the GOAT conversation. People know where I
Right.
stand on that.
Right.
It's reductive. It's stupid. It limits
Yeah.
him and whomever you put in that to just tearing one down at the expense of the other. But the one thing I will give him credit, or one of the many things I'll give LeBron credit for, is understanding the moment, understanding his responsibility from the point that he was 18. I am a star. The league is looking at me. I've got this machine behind me. It's incumbent upon me to live up to that, whether that's being in shape, Zion Williamson, whether that's showing up to work every day, performing. Like you said, it doesn't mean you're going to be at your best all the time, but there's a respect that I give to someone like LeBron, who in this in-season tournament played harder than everybody else, made sure his team was prepared more than everybody else, and delivered in the moment. I will always give him credit for that, DA.
Yeah. Here's where I think LeBron should get the ultimate credit, to me. And to me, he transcends Jordan in this regard. It's not about the basketball. He's been in the public eye for 3 decades. 2 decades, sorry. 2 decades. Other than one night where he told you where he was going to work next. So that's really what it was. It was just a guy saying, okay, I decided I'm going to move to Miami. That's all really, to take a job in Miami. Right. That's really all it was. Right. I mean, but it was handled so badly. But other than that, he hasn't caused a single moment of trouble, a single moment of pause, a single moment of anything. And neither has anybody that he's worked with that works for him. He's created this entire ecosystem of people that work with him.
Kind of.
Well, I mean, but really, it's been almost nothing. Almost, yeah.
Largely, yeah.
They have been good. They have been good citizens, and the good that he has done, and the good that his people have done in the world, far exceeds any missteps that they have made. And that, to me, is his ultimate legacy, that he has been, as you mentioned, in the public eye since he was 16 years old, and he ain't never had no misstep. Not like that.
No.
And he came up in tough circumstances. Now, I mean, it's all relative. Like, so did Amari Stoudemire. There's lots of people that came up in tough circumstances. But LeBron has been an incredible face of the franchise, face of the league, without ever compromising who he is. He's a kid from Akron. He says that a million times a day. Yep. Kid from Akron, and he hasn't screwed up. And I think that is laudable. That's admirable. That's admirable that he's done that.
Absolutely. And the league has been better for it. And the league I won't say they're going to struggle, but the league can't move away from LeBron until he's done with the league. You know what I mean? Sometimes the league will transition. We're not going to put as much on you. But he's such a great statesman for the league.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He shows up. He says the right things. He calls Adam Silver a genius for, this in-season tournament. He was a big critic of the play-in tournament. And then the Lakers benefited from the play-in tournament, and he realized that the Lakers benefited from the play-in tournament. You know what I'm saying? Like, so just LeBron as the ambassador. And like you said, Michael Jordan didn't have to deal with that. It was a different monoculture back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he did, but it wasn't as big. It's not as big as it is now. It just isn't.
Yeah.
I mean, it was big, but with social media, it just completely changed everything, right? Yeah. So I understand that. It's a different world.
It's a completely different world. And like I said, I give them all the credit for that. And now spinning this forward, because the Lakers did win. Shockingly, the Lakers, although they went 7-0 through this, they're still like 4th in the Western Conference. I've been saying for years, at some point, Anthony Davis is going to have to take this next step. And then someone that's pretty close to the Lakers said to me, look, man, playing in LeBron's shadow is a very hard thing. Is he supposed to take it from LeBron? Is he supposed to take that attention, that orbit, that aura or is he just supposed to play? And I think that is a very hard thing for a guy like Anthony Davis to do because he didn't, come up in the basketball machine the way that LeBron did. And because it doesn't seem like it's his nature to try to take something away. But for the Lakers to be any type of good, I don't think they can depend on LeBron playing 38 minutes a night, doing the things that he's doing with his body at his age. We see that it's a price to pay for that. And the price ain't going to be paid in December, DA.
Yeah. No, it's not sustainable, right? Like, we all understand LeBron can't go it the way he went these last 2 games in the tournament. He can't do that over the next 60 games. He won't make it. Like, he'll get hurt. He'll burn out. But AD doesn't. Here's the thing about AD. I'm not saying, I don't think, I know some people get on AD. I'm just saying there are moments, Saturday night being one of those moments, where you need him to be a superstar, and he was a superstar Saturday, right? LeBron got MVP. LeBron got all the accolades, but everybody understands that AD, they don't win the game if AD doesn't dominate the way he dominated.
Right.
And I think that's all most people want from AD is like, just be as good as you can be. Like, you're capable of 41, 20, and 5. Like, you have that. That's not like that was some unbelievable, unachievable thing that you could never do again. Maybe it's not 41 and 20, maybe it's 30 and 15, but you can do that. You're good enough. That's your talent level. Play to that talent level. I think that's all most people are saying. And especially as you get toward the end of the regular season and into the playoffs, you need him to be that way. Now, for him to be that way, he has to be healthy, right? And so that's always the conundrum with AD. And I'm not knocking him for that because everybody's different. And to say one person's threshold for being able to play through injury or pain or whatever should be the same as somebody else's is ridiculous. It's just different. There's some guys who are great players that can play through anything. And there's some guys who are great players that can't. It doesn't make them less manly or whatever nonsense you want to talk about. It just, everybody's wired differently. They're just different. But what people want from AD is, I think, that level of dominance. Like, he just took the paint away from Indiana. Oh, no, you don't get the paint tonight. I'm blocking everything. I'm challenging everything. And I'm dunking on all of you, by the way.
Yes.
I'm dunking, and people, that's what people want to see from AD. And they want to see him do that, not just against the team with an undersized center. And that's not a diss on Miles Turner. He would tell you he's an undersized center.
Right.
It's just physics. But he needs to be that effective and dominant against Jokic. Is that hard? Yes, it's really hard. But if there's one guy who can do it, it's AD. So that's the
Are we sure he can do it? Because I'll tell you this, DA. I covered the Western Conference Finals last year.
Yeah.
All 4 games.
That's the problem.
Not 7.
Yes.
All 4 games.
Yeah.
And
4.
AD played as well as I thought was humanly possible for someone to play against Nikola Jokic.
Yeah.
And Nikola Jokic still put him in a clown suit. Like, even there's this limits to how gifted a guy like AD is. And DA, I feel like Anthony Davis is in a trick bag. He's almost like child support, right? When he does 40 and 20, man, that's what you're supposed to do. You know what I mean? That's the bare minimum. You just giving up some of your money and spending time with your kid every 2 weeks. But then when he does it, when he has an off game, he's letting LeBron down. He's letting the Lakers down. Like, it's all these things coming down on him. It's almost like he can't win. Because, I voted for him as MVP of the in-season tournament. Yeah,
you
40.
There wasn't many others.
Right. 40, 20, 5, and 4. Like, I changed my vote like in the last half of the game. You know what I mean? I was like, this is going to be LeBron if they win. And then Anthony Davis just keeps doing stuff.
I know what you're saying. No, I'm not saying, this. Look, it's not easy. I'm not saying like Nikola Jokic is the best player in the world. I get that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but that's the challenge. Like, all right, how do you give us a chance against the best player in the world? And LeBron can't do it. LeBron can't guard Jokic, and he can't make Jokic guard him, right? So in this particular case, yeah, that's like we talked about with the draft. I'm not saying it's fair,
right?
But that's what you signed up for. You know what I mean? Like, you signed up for this. Like, you signed up. You said, I'm coming to LA to win championships. All right, to win a championship, you got to beat that guy.
Yep.
How you gonna do it? That's what you got to do.
Pray. That's how you.
Because he's here. He ain't going nowhere.
No,
he's not going nowhere.
No, you pray.
Yeah.
And it's in the rundown. So this is producer John's thing, not mine. Just John. I just threw you under the bus.
That's fine.
I'm not a huge proponent of December MVP. Like, the MVP will be awarded when it's awarded. But LeBron did win the in-season tournament MVP, which was a 7-game sample size. LeBron has won 4 MVPs. And every time we turn on the TV, we hear people saying, appreciate LeBron James, as if LeBron isn't properly appreciated and lauded and everything else.
Yeah, we appreciate LeBron.
Yeah,
LeBron's appreciated.
Appreciated, right? Right, exactly. and then he's given, like, the 39-year-old stimulus package. You know what I mean? Like, he's 39, so we gotta give him more points for it. DA, I'm 39. I wish I was given a little more respect and grace for being 39 in any walk of my life, right? But with that said, the voting populace is the voting populace. Do you think that is there a path for LeBron James to win MVP number 5, making him the oldest MVP in NBA history behind Karl Malone, who both MVPs, I'll say, are fraudulent. But go ahead.
Stop. They're not both fraudulent. You could argue one of them, but not both of them. The first one was legit, I think. Michael would disagree with me, but I thought the first one was legit. So,
I would disagree with you on that one too, but go ahead.
Yeah, we'll see. Could he? Of course he could win it. Sure, you can vote for LeBron every year and be justified. That's not, nobody's going to demand to know who voted for LeBron James for MVP. Like, no, I mean, come on. You can make an argument for LeBron all the time. He's that great. Right. He's consistently great.
Right.
Consistently impactful. And I think, just to make one more detour to AD, I think that's all people are asking from AD is just be as good as you can be every night if you're healthy, right? Like, if you're not healthy, there's nothing we can do about that.
Right.
So nobody says LeBron isn't impactful. He may not score 30 every night, but he's damn sure impactful every night. I don't know what his numbers were against New Orleans, but he was impactful. Took 3 charges in the first half and set the tone. Like, this is what we're doing tonight, fellas. You know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about. That's what great players do. They're like, this is what you're not going to be able to do tonight against me. And so whatever LeBron's numbers are, you always know when 23 is on the court. Yes. That's what I'm saying. Right? So that's what I'm saying. So can you vote for him for MVP, to answer your question? Of course you can. Sure. Always. Yeah. He's always a legitimate MVP candidate. I would argue that I do think, to your point earlier, whether you said they're 4th in the West. I mean, that does matter some.
Yes.
It's not golf or tennis. This is not an individual sport as much as we try to make it into that.
Right.
It is about the team you're on too. And everybody plays the same team. So don't give me this. The Lakers have had the toughest or easiest or whatever schedule. Like, I don't want to hear that. Over 82, we all play the same team. So so the record does matter. Is it first on my list? No, but it matters. It does matter. You do have to take that into account.
Right. No, I mean, well, considering the fact that LeBron hasn't won an MVP since 2013, which is 10 years, and I can't point to
that is crazy.
It is crazy, but when you break it down year by year, it doesn't feel like he's been robbed of anything.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I wouldn't say he's been robbed. It's just crazy. As good as he's continued to be, it's wild to me that he never won another one.
Yeah. And LeBron, if nothing else, he's going to show up. He's going to be consistent. The one thing I will say about LeBron before I close and go to the next subject is, at this stage of his career, I'm amazed that he can take a game. Maybe it's for like a 5-minute stretch, DA. He can take a game and put a certain level of force on it and make the game his. Like Jason Tatum may be a better player. Kevin Durant, I believe, is a better player. So is Giannis. So is a couple others, right? LeBron's no longer at the top of the heap. But I don't know if there is a single player who can take the game and just mold it the way that it needs to be molded for 4 to 5 minutes on both ends of the floor, both physically, mentally, just controlling and dictating tempo.
Yeah.
That's the thing, DA, that amazes me the most for him at this stage.
Absolutely. And there is a comparison to Karl Malone, because I used to see Karl do this when he was 37, 38 years old. And he couldn't do it. Obviously, he couldn't do it for 48 minutes. But there would be a stretch where all of a sudden Karl is sprinting up and down the floor for 3 or 4 minutes. And we see LeBron do that. Sprinting on offense, sprinting to get back on defense. And I think there's a mental piece to that. Why is he doing that? To show all these young guys, none of y'all can out-athlete me. I can't do it for 48, but I can do it for 45 seconds. Y'all can't stay up. Y'all still can't hold up with me for 45 seconds. I'm still the best guy out here. I'm still the hardest worker out here. And that has, to me, I think that matters, right?
Absolutely.
That sort of effort matters. And again, I go back to him taking 3 charges against 2 of them on Zion, right? Like, I don't care how big you are. I'm stepping right in front of you. You got to go through me. And literally Zion, at least that night, said, I'm good.
No mas.
You know what I mean? Good.
It's a lot of things that Zion ain't gonna say no mas to. Okay, let's be perfectly honest.
You know what
there.
I mean? And but that just shows you that's the mental toughness that, and this is where Jordan was. You just don't know how mentally tough that guy was. How insane he was.
That's the best word, maniac.
Yeah. Well, I've always said this, Vinny, and if Michael was 6'6", I said if he was 5'6", he may have well been a serial killer. He's insane. Michael's insane.
Did you tell Michael that?
Yeah, I've told Michael that, and he's just like, that's funny. But I'm 6'6", motherfucker. You know, like, so yes, you are. I know.
Right.
but he's wired differently. Yes. Kobe was wired that way.
Yes.
Kobe was wired that way.
Yes.
That's why they were the way they are, the way they were as players. They're just wired differently than most human beings.
Right.
And it's that singularity, that focus, and the ability to maintain that focus. And that's what's hard, even for great players, is maintaining that focus.
Yep.
Year after year after year. And that's LeBron's greatness, is that he stays focused for the most part. Doesn't always play great, but he stays focused.
Right. And last thing before we go, because DA is based in DC and he knows his player really, really well. Bradley Beal is supposed to return from injury. Today is Monday. He's supposed to return from injury Tuesday. We have not seen the Phoenix Suns en masse. This will not work if Bradley Beal is not healthy. And when you're dealing with a back injury, it ain't just that you're dealing with a back injury and then you're not. Your back hurts.
Yeah,
I'm telling you this from experience. Your back will always hurt. Do you think
Rivers? Yes.
Do you think this thing can work?
Well, Doc Rivers said this to me 15, 16, 17 years ago. Backs don't get better. He's right. They don't get better. You can find a way to deal with the back issues, but you still have back issues. And cutting on them doesn't help much either most of the time. So that's not really a solution. Like, just get an operation. You get an operation on your back. You tell me what it feels like to get your L7 cut on and tell me how good it is. Like, no, thank you. You know what I mean? Like, so we'll see with Brad. I hope he can kind of figure out a way to play through it, because I do think he really was invested and is invested in this working. Like, he really wants this to work in Phoenix. And I think they could be really good together. The 3 of them could really be quite good together. But he's got to be out there. And it's not a criticism of him, but he has over the course of his career had injuries. And it's unfortunate because he's a really good player. And I think he had on that team, it would be like, to me, it'd be like Halliburton. If he was on a team that could showcase how good he is, people will go, damn, Bradley Beal's a really good player. Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is a really good player. He was a really good player in Washington.
Right.
Just that the rest of the players around him weren't good enough.
Right.
Like
that's what I was going to ask you.
Get to the
playoffs.
playoffs.
We know how good as an NBA, diehards? We know how good Bradley Beal is. Does the NBA world know how great of a player Bradley Beal is?
No, because he was on a bad team for most of his career. So they discount it. Well, how good could he be? They weren't any good. No, he was really good. He was third team All NBA just a couple of years ago. It wasn't 12 years ago. It was like 3 years ago. Okay. He averaged 30 points a game 3 years ago, 2 years ago. Like, he's not a bum. He's a good basketball player. He's just on a bad team. There's a difference.
Yes.
It's a qualitative difference, and so if he's on a good team, like I think Phoenix has a chance to be, people will completely in the span of 2 weeks change their complete. Wow, Bradley Beal's a better passer than I thought. Yeah, he is.
He's better everything really you thought, because you didn't think much of him. That's what it was. You didn't think much of him.
You just never saw him because he was on a bad team.
Exactly.
But he's a good player, and I hope he gets to stay healthy and get a chance because I would like to see him playing in big important playoff games in May and June and see what he does. I'm curious. I think he'll do pretty good actually. I'd like to see that again for him.
Me too. And on this rundown, which we're not going to get to, John put down a comparison between the Detroit Pistons and Oklahoma City Thunder, as if there is a comparison. Because
you mean historically?
No, he just means rebuilding franchises. OKC did it their way with, when they got Chris Paul and Shea, and they were able to build, and then the Detroit Pistons.
He means modern day OKC.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. I'm not going.
But again, they hit on Josh Giddey. They hit on Williams. They hit on their draft picks. They developed Lou Dort. Like, people don't get it twisted. They know what they're doing in OKC in that regard because they have to, because they can't miss on the draft because nobody's coming there as a free agent, and they know that.
Yep.
So they have to hit on it. And they got Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, but they also got him because they had Paul George, and they got Paul George because they had Oladipo and Sabonis. You know what I mean? So there's always, if you go back and look far back enough, they don't miss.
They don't. You can't miss.
They don't miss in the draft.
No.
They don't ever miss in the draft. They rarely miss. They
right.
missed on some, but they rarely miss in the draft.
They rarely miss.
And that's really that's the difference. They don't miss. Their guys are players.
And you know who doesn't miss? David Aldridge doesn't miss. My man, I appreciate you. VDA at The Athletic. He's also a part of The Athletic's NBA show, and he's also part of Tony Kornheiser's radio show in DC.
I do it all.
Oh my God.
Got a lot of bills, Vinny. Got a lot of bills.
Bills, college, all of that stuff. A wife, stuff that I don't have to worry about, right?
Exactly.
But thanks, DA. I appreciate you. Thanks to producer John and everybody working behind the glass. Thanks to Multitude Productions and Greenpoint for hosting us today. As you can see, I'm not in my usual background. I am in Brooklyn. Dan Devine will be back for another episode of Divine Intervention this week. I will be taking Wednesday off because I need a day. I'll just say that. I need a day off. So I'm taking a load management day, but I'll be back next Monday for another episode of The Good Word. Until then, everybody be safe.